What's up, family? Welcome to Positive Power Double XI, J. Royce Films. I'm Jerry Royce Live, and you're watching The Red Room with Shay Samuels, right here on Music Vision Television. That's right, MVTV-21.com. It's going to be awesome, y'all. So please share this file. It's going to be awesome. You know what's going to be? It's going to be lit. Rolling tape. Ready when you are.
Welcome to another episode of The Red Room. I am your host, Shay Samuels, and we have an amazing show for you all today. So stay tuned. We have two amazing guests, and we have an amazing topic. First, we have Reverend Red in the Red Room. Y'all give it up.
Right.
That's
right.
Initially, it was a bit of a tongue twister, so we don't take 3. And we have Lady Krystal with him as well. They are a beautiful item. And I'm telling you guys, we are going to have an amazing conversation. So listen, today we are talking about the shifting. We are all going through it. Ecclesiastes 3 reminds us that to everything there is a season. But we have to understand the power of the shift. So first, let me ask our guests, how are you both today?
We are wonderful, phenomenal.
Yes, that's great.
And in the middle of a shift.
Yep.
Oh,
we went through
so
that freeze. We went through that freeze last week.
Yes.
Yeah, so we out of it now, woo.
Wow.
Yeah,
So I'm originally from up north and kind of miss having the snow until something like this happened. And then I said, nope, I'm not interested in being up there. It was like back to back. So I can't say that it's beautiful to look at.
Yes, it's beautiful.
I'll watch it on TV.
It's beautiful. Now you can turn things on YouTube. If you want the fireplace, you just turn it on YouTube.
Turn it on. Yes.
You turn it on YouTube. And so I think I'll stick with the YouTube. But thank you both for being on the show. We have a powerful discussion today. And, it's going to be amazing to see what comes out of this. And as always, I pray that it will bless someone watching it today. But today we're talking about the power of shift. I did a message a long time ago, probably about a year ago, but I did a message on shift. And for some reason, it just came back on me today. And I was thinking about how, when I was younger, I used to drive a shift vehicle. And it had 5 shifts. And if you know how to drive a shift car, you have to shift in order for you to go into the next gear. In order for you to actually go into the next, in order for you to drive without you burning your engine out. Come on, y'all.
Yeah. All right, come on.
Yes.
Come on.
Burn the engine out. You have to shift. And so in this message, I was talking about how I would have to go in the first gear, and I had to learn how to use my pedal and brake at the same time to get to the second gear. And how many times did I burn out a clutch before I actually learned it? Right? Yep. How many times? And so the power of shift is just that. If you are not necessarily prepared, but if you're not shifting when it's time, you are risking burnout.
Come on now.
We're going to talk about that today. Reverend Red, I'm going to start with you. What do you have to say about the power of shift?
Well, the power of shifting is kind of it's kind of scary. That's the number one thing. Whenever God calls you or asks you to shift, because we have gotten so comfortable, we don't want to make that move. Because we don't know where we're going to shift to or what's there, we don't want to make that move. Let's go back and this was Black History Month. Let's take slavery, right? A lot of slaves, I think they said 70 to 80% of the slaves that were free didn't want to shift to freedom.
Right.
They didn't want to shift. They didn't want to make that move.
Yeah.
Because of the unknown.
Yeah.
Many of us today, the enemy have us in bondage, have us in a certain situation, and God is calling you and opening the door for you to make a shift, to make a move. But because we don't know where God is taking us,
Yeah.
And, you know, God knows, but we don't know. Since God ain't told us and we don't know, then we are nervous about the shift.
Yes.
How can we be nervous about where God is taking us?
But here's the thing. So you said that God, well, first of all, we all know there's a such thing as discernment. And so our steps are already ordered. Now, God might not have shown us the full plan, of course, because if God shows us the full plan, then why would we even need God? Why would we even desire God? So he's not going to show us the full plan. But we just talked about this on another episode, that there's a seed. I called it the believe seed on one of my messages.
Okay.
There's a believe seed that is in all of us at the time that we're born. And so with that comes vision. And although we may not shift because we don't know what God has for us, the operative word is God has something for us.
Right.
Yes.
So if we trust that God has something for us, and we know, and that belief seed in us says, whatever God has for us is good. It's time to shift.
That's right.
Lady Krystal, what do you have to say about it?
I can think about what made me shift. What is it? What happened? You know, and a lot of times we go through chaos. There might be something that causes us to shift. And it might be, I remember driving my first shift gear car, and I learned in the parking lot before I purchased the car because it was so much cheaper. And the throttle, if I took my foot off the throttle, I would jerk. And so there was a jerk in my life when I lost the highest paying job that I had. And I was sitting there crying, saying, somebody is telling me I need to go to church. So we all have different throttle actions that happen in our lives. And it could be a wreck. It could be a breakup. You know, mine was a loss of a job, and it caused me to shift. It caused me to seek the one that created me. And so a lot of times we get stuck. Our throttle is caught, we stall because of what happened, you know, because of the assault or because of the loss of job, whatever that is. Sometimes you get stalled and you really should keep moving forward. Even though you got stalled, even though that throttle went off and you got jerked around, that is your shift. That is your indication that a shift has happened in your life.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because here's the thing that I really have to understand, even for me. When I was driving the vehicle, like you said, I learned on my own. I didn't know anything about a shift. The car was given to me. My dad actually said, if you want the car, you got to get the brakes and you got to get a clutch. And so I was determined to get a brake and a clutch. I learned on the highway. What I used to do is I used to keep it in neutral. I knew like what the car speed. So when Reverend Red said you get comfortable, here's how comfortable I got with the learning process. I used to keep it in neutral, and I could feel the level of the car and what we're going to do based off of the based off the rev of the car. So if you've ever driven the shift, you know that when you, and it was like, I got accustomed to what I heard. And so
got accustomed,
going gear based off of what I heard. I don't know if it was tearing the car up or not. I just know that's where I learned on the highway. That's what I learned. So I learned that I had to stay in neutral. And then when it was time for me to drive, I would go into that. I would go, I thought I had it. I thought I had it. Maybe a month later, that engine, that thing was all burnt out. And so, like you said, Lady Krystal, we risk that burnout, that jerk. There's a jerking that happens in our lives that's going to push us back into gear. And so the shift, one thing that I can say, you both know this, I'm going to come back to you, Reverend Red, but the shift is inevitable.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Go ahead, Reverend Red.
Yeah, but she forgot to tell you about the greatest shift in her life when God shifted her over to me, when she met me, you know, but we put that on another show, okay, the marriage ministry show, you know, but but when the thing about shifting is that it's always a challenge. It's always, God knows, like I said, and we don't know, you know, and I go back to even further back from slavery to the children of Israel when Moses came, right? When Moses came, and you're about to shift now, but even when they were shifting, they had to go through some situation to get to the ultimate move and the ultimate shift of the promised land.
Yeah.
God has something somewhere for all of us to shift to, something better. But because we are spoiled, because we are comfortable, we think that's laying up here under Pharaoh is okay, is comfortable. And why do we have to go through all that to get to someplace better when we can just stay right here?
Do I hear an accent?
Oh yes, yes.
We can't talk with the polite and the want to talk, you know, but we can't.
He got serious. Right, it came out when he got serious. It came out. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm turn around and find out if somebody was on the other side of me.
No, that's him. Kingston, Jamaica.
Okay.
Kingston, Jamaica. Yes.
I hear. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look, we are full of surprises on the
That's right. That's right. Hey, God shift me from Jamaica. God shift me from Jamaica to the United States.
Oh my goodness, we are full of surprises. If you are just tuning in, we are with Reverend Red on the Red Room and Lady goodness
Crystal, Lady Catherine.
He's throwing me off. I know who it is, but he threw me.
No dreadlocks, no dog skin.
Right, you know, exactly.
A Jamaican with freckles.
Lady Krystal, you said something too that was profound, because in May 2020, I was with a company for about 5 years and I was making really good money there. And they, within the pandemic, they actually utilized an opportunity to downsize in the pandemic. And so my department that I managed was the first department to go.
Wow.
Of course, I was the first person to go, but I'm going to tell you, the day afterwards, God had already shown me in the month of February, really the month of October, to start saving different, right? And so I didn't do that in October. Okay. But in February, it came back and I said, okay, well, I'm going to start saving differently. Here I am thinking, I give everything to this job. I'm working the long hours. I'm doing everything I need to do. So there's no way that they would even have a reason to let me go. But you know what? There was already a plan behind the scenes. The shift was already in preparation. And what I had to do was be obedient to what I heard, which was to save differently. I didn't know why. I just knew I needed to. But once I heard it the second time, I was obedient to that. The first time, I'm like, I'm gonna be good because I've been on this company.
Don't want to shift. Yeah.
When I was let go, I'm gonna tell you something. I realized that was a shift. I realized that was my push. So I don't even say terminated. I don't say let go. I say I was pushed, because I realized, like Reverend Red said, I got comfortable. I got comfortable. I realized that there were certain things that were beneficial to my ministry under one boss, but the players changed.
Yes, come on.
The players changed. And when the players changed, the shift was inevitable. And so here I was comfortable. And when I got comfortable, God said, no, I'm running a profitable business right now. I have a very successful ministry. And I understand now that it was because I decided, I'm not even telling y'all the truth on the Red Room. I didn't decide. I was pushed into the shift.
Yes, come on.
I was pushed into the shift. So Reverend Red, let's talk about that push when people are going against the current. And you know you holding on to the pole and the wind is blowing and you trying to hold on to everything that you got.
Yeah, that's true.
Trying to hold on to everything. You got legs up in the air and you just don't want to let go. But the shift being inevitable, talk to that person that's trying to go against the current, holding on to that pole and every single thing that they have. And God is saying it's time to shift.
And some of your guests might get mad at me right now because I'm talking about like single ladies that's still holding on to a man 13, 12, 15 years. My wife and I always talk about that. I'm like, what are you holding on to? God is about to shift you. Some shifts are major, some shifts are minor, but every shift is important. Okay. Some shifts take you to another country, to another state. Some shifters take you around the corner to another job. So wherever God moves you, my wife always tell me this, baby, are you ready to move? As a preacher, you got to be able to shift, be able to move. wherever God wants you. And sometimes I'm spoiled. That's why I can say this. I'm like, oh, baby, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying right here. I'm a minister right here. I was in South Dallas for the longest ministering. Hey, God said, let's move north. And my wife kept saying that. And I'm like, well, this is good. I'm comfortable. We got our building. It's paid for. We are right here. God uprooted us. And guess what? Shift.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We had to move, and God has blessed the whole move and continue to bless. So we have to do the same thing in our lives. You know, when God touch, when God speaks, when God talk, stop listening to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Stop listening to people.
Yeah.
And listen to God. And when she hears God, and people say, well, no, girl, don't do that. Don't go out and get that business. Don't go out and write that book. Don't go out and do that, whatever. Okay. Let people speak positive in your life. If God is asking to move, girl, you better move. Say, my man, you better move. Because God, I'm not going to be the one to hinder you from shifting and moving when you hear the voice of God.
So it sounds like it's time to shift from those friends.
God will do that too. God will do that too.
The whole circle needs to change. Yes. You know, the primary thing here is that there is so much power in the shift. And because a lot of people are afraid, like you said, we've gotten so comfortable with just being status quo. Here's another thing that we've gotten comfortable with, what it looks like.
Yes.
We have so much in front of us with social media. There's so many people pretending to be something that they're not. And a lot of people see with their eyes, this person has shifted. And guess what? It's because the status changed.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Lady Krystal, the status changed.
Yes.
So here's what they see. So you now see your friend who's like, I'm a homeowner. You don't know what it took for them to get it.
That's
you don't know what they went through. You don't know what they cried about at night.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Absolutely. Stop it now. Wow. Stop it.
You know, we when I told my husband it's time to move, we were moving. God said for us to move from our house. We had been in our house for 17 years.
Didn't want to move.
So we passed that halfway mark. And so I'm like, God said for us to move. And my husband's like, where are we moving to? I said, I don't know. But God said for us to move.
She started packing stuff.
I'm the only one.
I come home, she started packing. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm the only one in the house packing. My son is like, my mama crazy. But she packing for it. We not moving. My son was like, no, this is my house. You know, we're not moving. I'm like, God said for us to move. So he made us uncomfortable in our home. Things started shifting. Our house literally started shifting. And so I'm looking at cracks and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, we got to fix this foundation. And God was like, no, you need to move. You need to move. So when I said, okay, we're moving, it took 3 days. You didn't hear me. It took 3 days. Our house was on the market for 3 days and we sold it. And then we were like, where are we going to move? It was in an uncomfortable time. We had a vacation and a basketball tournament because we do a basketball ministry with underprivileged and overprivileged kids. We bring them together.
Mighty Kings.
Okay, good.
Mighty
I like
basketball. And so that some of them have never played with other races until they came.
I like that.
Never interacted, never spent the night over at anybody else's house, but that's another story. But in the midst of that, we had the trip, we had the house of our house for sale. We had to pack. Guess what? We didn't have a place to go.
Wow.
But God.
Yeah.
And we moved into an apartment and we're like, people are going, you said status quo. People are going to look at us like, why are they at that age living in an apartment? They had a house. What happened? So a lot of times in this Christian walk, people are like, you have to have this. You have to have this title. You have to have this much. You have to drive this kind of car in order to be successful. And so it was looking like we were unsuccessful, but we were in the shift of God.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. Look, the two of you are blessing me, and I know that someone is watching this today, and you may not have realized that you were in the midst of your shift, But if you've heard what we talked about, listen, you are in the midst of your shift. The shift is inevitable. You need to stop holding on to the pole.
That's right.
Let the wind just blow you. Like, let us blow it for you.
That's right.
Yes.
Let the wind just blow you, because it is inevitable. And here I am, you know, I laugh while you guys were talking, because it's like, kind of, you got to practice what you preach. You're talking, and I realize I'm in the midst of a shift. Mm-hmm. You know, while you're talking, I'm realizing I'm in the midst of a shift. And for me, sometimes I'm like, God, another one. You know, I'm like, I feel like an army brat sometimes, because I'm always uprooted. And because I'm always moving, and I'm always, you know, it's like, when do I get a break? You know, I just want to settle. you know? But I realize that the shifts are inevitable. There's ever changing environments around us. Shift, like you said, Reverend Red, you know, you got to look at changing your circle. Don't be afraid of, because you grew up with these people and they were in high school with you.
That's right. Come on now.
You pinky swear to be friends all your life. You know, you guys did elbow spit, whatever you did. Here, our reality is that when you say yes to God, things are going to change in your life.
That's right.
I tell people this all the time. For some reason, we've been brainwashed to believe that everything of God is warm and fuzzy. But we go on a battlefield. We're on a battlefield. And that's not to scare the person watching today. Well, why would I want to follow God if I'm always on the battlefield? Here's the reality of the battlefield. You come out stronger.
We win.
Come out bolder. Look, go ahead, Reverend Red. Say it again.
We win. That's the reality of the battlefield.
Yes.
We win. I don't care what the situation might look like. We win at the end. Let me go back to tell you a little thing about shift also. A lot of times, here's another problem we have with shifting. We are jealous of somebody else's shift. Because their shift was quicker. They didn't take us long to get where they are. It's taking me a long time. So instead of finishing the shift, let me go back to where I was. Okay. Wow. And so we do shift envy. Okay. How did Shay get on TV so quick? How did she get all that so quick? And we haven't there yet. God's supposed to be shifting us there. We're not there yet. And people get jealous of someone else's shift instead of glorifying God and say, God, if you took her there, if you moved Jerry where he is, if you took my neighbor, my friend, guess what? I'm looking for you the same thing with me, but do it on your time, God. Yes. You know, the children of Israel could have went a shorter route to get to the promised land.
Yes.
A whole lot shorter route. They didn't have to do what they did. Yes. They said, why is Moses shifting us up there? We can shift down here and be a whole lot quicker. That's not what God has for you. Yes. That's not the journey that God has for you. Each one of us have our own different journey. Absolutely. And you know what that makes, Shay? When we have our own different journey, it gives each one of us our own different testimony. Yes. See, our testimony is not like your testimony. Yes. See what I'm saying? You got a different shift testimony than what we have. Yes. You see, and that's what God is saying. So don't be envy of nobody else's shift. No matter if it's quick overnight, you might like, boom. Well, they did it quick. What's wrong with us? God has his time. He's working with you. You just let God do what he has to do in his time frame. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it amazes me. It amazes me because the number one group of people that have the biggest challenge with the shift are the believers.
Look at her. I'm about to stand up and run around.
Did you see their faces?
Yes. And why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that? Yes. Because we are not taught that in church. We're taught that it's you're supposed to be rich and wealthy and you're supposed to have all quick. Everything is supposed to be, you pray for it and you get it. But when Jesus came, if I'm not mistaken, he went from city to city. Yep. He went from place to place. That's shifting. He taught his disciples how to shift. They shifted from disciples to apostles. The shift happened, and he taught them to shift. He taught them to shake the dust from their feet. He didn't teach them to stay in one place. He never told anyone Wow. Where in the Bible did he say, sit down and be still? He said, go.
Yeah.
Go. The Great Commission was for everyone to go, but people get comfortable. And in Moses' time, Moses was moving the children of Israel in what? In tents. There was nothing permanent in that 40 years. They were moving in tents. Now, when God wants you to settle down, he'll give you a house that you did not build. He'll give you land that you didn't. Come on, somebody. He shifts you.
He's going to give you that fur coat that you ain't know was going to come out of that bedroom for your photo shoot.
Boy, here we go with that fur coat.
Well, I do want to end with saying this. Like a caterpillar is meant to turn into a butterfly. I did a study, and that study said that if a caterpillar lives past its life expectancy before turning into a butterfly, it will die. The caterpillar is only designed to live at a certain weight, and living beyond the butterfly time frame, that season of turning into the butterfly, it is surely to die. So if you're watching this today, know that it is time for you to shift. You have heard it here from the three of us, and we have been through our own shifts. We have our own testimonies, but at the end, Reverend Red said it best: we win. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank you both for being my guests on the Red Room.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
I really appreciate it. And I pray, as always, that this has blessed you, the viewer, today. I'm Shay Samuels, the host of the Red Room, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. And until the next show on the Red Room, we will